Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day we try to demystify technology and understand how tech can help benefit or transform businesses, and do all that in a language that everyone can understand. So today I've invited Adam Mayer from Qlik, the data and analytics company, and Richard Spiegel from Nationwide onto the podcast. And I want to explore their different insights into the state of regulation and the need to improve trust when it comes to data analytics, especially in the financial services sector. Why? Well, while AI and predictive analytics have huge potential in the finance industry, the big elephant in the room is low trust and regulatory fears are actually holding back their widespread adoption in the industry. In fact, only 50% of IT leaders actually trust decisions made by predictive analytics solutions are without bias. And 46% of IT leaders believe that the regulatory burden actually outweighs the benefit that predictive analytics solutions could offer. So it seems we've got somewhat of a disconnect here between where everything is heading, no doubt about that, and the disconnect between the adoption because of fear. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to the UK, where Adam and Richard are going to join me in trying to demystifying the world of artificial intelligence and predictive analytics and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show, guys. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
So great to be here again, Neil. So I'm Adam Mayer from Qlik. I'm based in the UK, but I'm in a global role in product marketing for the team. So I've been in Qlik for about 5 years. And I'm in a kind of more technical marketing role with a technical background. So I've covered a lot of our kind of data analytics solutions. And more recently now, I'm focusing and responsible more for our data integration solutions as well. So what's interesting about Qlik there is that we can now offer that kind of full end-to-end value chain that really allows our customers, like Nationwide, allowed to go from like raw data all the way through to sort of, making it business analytical ready and deliver data, deliver data in real time. So the important thing there is you can not only start getting informed insights from the most freshest data available, but more interesting now is the ability to start taking action, and we're starting to bring in more automation to take even more actions, if you like. So this is all building towards something we've been working on for quite a long time, towards what we're calling an active intelligence platform that's really has the foundation in real-time data. But then sort of looking towards automation, all the good stuff with analytics, self-service sort of capabilities and reporting and cataloging, and really bringing action to the forefront as well.
Thanks for having us, Neil. I'm Richard. I guess I'm at the coalface of BI and analytics. I run the central BI team at Nationwide Building Society. So what that looks like is I've got a team of BI developers who develop dashboards and insights for the business, and those go out. We support about 3,000 users, 3,000 colleagues around Nationwide who actually use the tools every day for making decisions around the business and give the best possible service we can to our members. So I'll take a sort of very frontline view, I guess, of what business intelligence really looks like, and that's what makes me live and breathe every day.
Well, we've got so much to get through today and talk about, and there's a lot I'm excited to talk about. But before we go down that road, there's something I always try and do with my guests, and we've had nearly 2,000 people on here now, and I always ask, what is their origin story? Where did their passion for tech come from? What lit that spark and ultimately put them on the path today? And there's always a few interesting ones in there. Very seldom did anyone say, I want to work in technology. A few happy accidents seem to happen along the way. But Adam, can you share yours first?
Yeah, sure. Continue the tag team. So, I've always had a passion around computers, starting from a very early age. And I said that, I think I mentioned it before in the last talk that we did, with my dad being an IBM and bringing in big hulking computer and working it from there. I think I'll expand more on my kind of data geek side of things. So I've always been involved in crunching data. I sort of come from an application engineering background with the likes of Sony and Toshiba, and we were dealing with huge amounts of numbers. So I was regularly number crunching my way through, more often than not, an Excel sheet, hitting the 65k row limit back in the day. And I remember thinking, hitting that challenge, writing macros for it, and getting trying to draw out the insights and all those kind of challenges. And I thought there's got to be a better way of doing this. And that's when I actually discovered Qlik back then. I think we were in single number versions. Loved what it did then, still love what it does now. But it really helped me sort of get my data geek on and delve into numbers and draw out those fascinating and actionable insights. So that's my passion, and that's what continues to drive me through. So when I got the opportunity to join Qlik, those 5 years ago, or over 5 years ago now, I jumped on it, and it allows me to live my passion every day, really.
Love that. And Richard, do you have a geeky backstory or a happy accident?
Oh, I've got a really cliched middle-aged man thing. I had a ZX Spectrum. I think my dad bought me when I was a kid. You remember the one with the little rubber keys, and it was like this magical light box that I could program. So I guess that got me into computers. I think on the analytical journey, bizarrely, I sort of had two careers. I was a software engineer first, and I did a lot of work on property portals, the sort of place you might go and find a holiday rental or look for a house to buy. And we were processing vast amounts of data, and I didn't know how to wrangle data. That was a kind of a new thing, and we wanted to get some insights from our data. And I discovered a BI tool, never heard of one before. And I remember dragging all our customer data out of this enormous clunky database and putting up my first bar chart and showing it to the boss. And there was this moment of kind of magic where the boss suddenly saw the customer base in a way that he hadn't quite seen it before, because we just couldn't report things like this back in the day easily. I know it seems crazy easy now, but and it was that little moment of insight that suddenly we'd use the data to help the business make a decision. It's that little moment of magic that got me kind of addicted to analytics and moved me into that space. And now, we're very heavy Qlik users. Qlik is something we use every day, and it's lovely watching hundreds and thousands of people doing that around the businesses. It's just normal for them now. It's how their days run. So I think a fairly straight path.
Yeah.
If you're a certain age.
Well, I'm there as well. It was ZX Spectrums, Commodore 64s and IBMs, and we've all took these different paths. But for you guys, that path has led you to Qlik and Nationwide. But I invited you on today to discuss the state of regulation and that need to improve trust when it comes to data analytics in the financial services sector. So to begin with, just to set the scene and tell the listeners all over the world that maybe in this industry or maybe even outside of that industry, a little bit more about Qlik's latest industry report. I mean, who did you survey and what did you set out to find with this report?
Yeah, sure. Let me take that. So, I think it was back in June this year. We essentially commissioned a survey of well over 500 IT leaders. This one focused in on financial services in particular. And we were quite interested to understand kind of what's the state and understanding and capability around predictive analytics, and particularly the barriers that they might be facing going down that road. And what's quite interesting is you read the report, we found that despite IT leaders sort of, generally recognizing that there is potential for predictive analytics within the organization, typically there were three main barriers that come up in adoption. Trust is definitely an important one. It's really important for any financial services organization that decisions that are going to make from data potentially will have a quite a major impact on customers' life. Those life-changing decisions, if you like, from being accepted for a mortgage, making payments, and all those kind of things. And generally, what came out in the results of the survey was that kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the use of algorithms. Are they accurate? Could there be any sort of unfair impact in for customers' lives and all that kind of stuff? So getting that important bias in there. The second one was, as you mentioned, around that regulatory risk. So of course, particularly financial services and many other organizations are in a highly regulated industry. So it's really important that you don't hit any breaches and all this kind of stuff. And out of the report, one stat I can quote is 44% of leaders do actually fear that it could be held personally responsible for any automatic sort of decisions that could be triggered by predictive analytics. So that's quite a key thing there. And then the third one is really a combination of things, but it's drawn out in terms of having flaws in their data pipelines that they put in. So these are really technical barriers around the implementation side of things. So, it could be things around, just using data in isolation, data sources, those data silos. There's that question of quality. The brittleness of data pipelines as well. You want to make sure that they're robust and high performance, and that leads to the kind of the speed of data integration. So a lot of them are suffering from there's a lot of manual processes involved. It can make it brittle. It can make the data quite slow in actually being delivered. So all of these combined together are quite a contributing factor. So having said that, that's not to say that financial services and any organizations can't harness that potential of predictive analytics. But really the resounding response from the report was that by being able to successfully integrate predictive analytics and bring that into the world of business intelligence, there's a lot of scope there to really overcome not only these obstacles, but the key thing is, as we've always sort of talk about when we bring in automation in our story, is that it's really important to have the combination of human and machine intelligence involved behind these things. So automation is great for those simple tasks, but there's some critical points where the human has to make the decision.
And while AI and predictive analytics do have huge potential in FS organisations, I suppose really low trust and regulatory fears are, for the most part, holding people back with that and preventing widespread adoption across the industry. And one of the stats that stood out to me was that only 50% of IT leaders in FS organisations trust decisions made by predictive analytics solutions and trust that they're without bias. And 46% of IT leaders believe that regulatory burden actually outweighs the benefit that predictive analytics solutions could offer. Can you expand on those findings?
I think there's a few reasons that would feed into some discomfort on that. The first one, probably data quality. In fact, I think there was something in the report, I'm trying to remember the number, it was 2/5 of leaders face issues with data quality. I was quite surprised by that figure. It seemed low. Data quality is a problem that we face every day. And in anything predictive, if your data's not right, if it's not good, can you really trust the model that's going to come out of the end of the sausage machine? And so that's an issue. Data quality is a sort of big topic. It's not just about good data, bad data, accurate data. It's about defined data as well. Have you got good coverage on understanding what your definitions of data really mean? And I'll give you a nationwide example. I think at last count, we've got 27 different definitions of what a member is, depending on who you ask and what the circumstances are. None of them are wrong, but they all matter in context. So that's an issue that we have to sort. Accuracy of output is always an issue. Timeliness as well of data. Are we getting data? If we want to make a predictive decision on the data, how quickly is it coming through the pipe? If a customer's updated, say, their balance, if I'm only getting a balance that's 3 days old because I can't get the data through the pipe quick enough, should I be using those numbers to do anything predictive? That's a practical day-to-day thing. The other one I've got, and I'm not sure this is a word, I'm going to just make a word up. I'm going to call it explainability. I think with anything predictive, anything that talks about AI or machine learning, or that space it feels like a black box to people. It certainly does to senior leaders. If you can't explain to them how the technology is actually working in a believable and trustworthy way, then there's going to be distrust. So I think, and this is a soft skill that I think all of us as analytics leaders need to develop. We've got to get better at storytelling and turning really quite tough mathematical concepts into something that a human can understand and believe in. And we've got to build that trust issue. And I think that, to be honest, that's something that we need to be much better at as a profession. Storytelling is not always the greatest strength. Often, we are quite statistical and nerdy, and that's great in place. But you've got to be able to talk about it and turn it into something actionable. So a bit more Chris Whitty, I guess that's what we need to be.
And you, both of you, are very close to everything that's going on here, and you've probably seen it all before. So I'm curious. Did anything surprise you in this report?
Yeah, I'll quickly jump in there and then I'll hand over to Richard. One of the things that got me out of the report was I think it was less than half of IT leaders, in this report from financial services, they would actually trust predictive analytics to manage their kids' pocket money, which I thought was a really interesting fact. I mean, I've got a teenage daughter going on mid-20s from an attitude perspective. And we just signed her up for a nationwide account, actually. Funny enough, it was literally the best account out there. But I know the work, great work Richard's and team's doing in there. But one thing I get where that concern is coming from. It's all boils down to that trust and quality side of things. But from a consumer perspective, I would like to see, the use of predictive analytics and a little bit of AI around that area, particularly as you start your journey from a money perspective and managing money. So it would be good to have good kind of insights into where you're spending your money, where you're saving it. So if you keep going down this route, you're going to be broke very quickly. You can not get too many loans, incoming and outgoing sort of being balanced. But it also be good, if you start translating that into an adult world, as you start dealing with those more important life decisions like loans and mortgages and things like that, you could use that data and have an element of kind of predictive analytics that could be really useful in having those discussions, with the financial experts, with teams within someone like Nationwide or financial advisors and things like that. So that's the way I'd like to sort of see it going. So Richard,
thank you for the plug, Adam.
You're welcome.
Good work there. Well, they're excellent choice and banking product. It genuinely is. Actually, Nationwide is a good outfit. They're good eggs. Couple of surprises. Yeah, I think there was one in there that said that only half of IT leaders are concerned about potential bias in predictive analytics. That really did surprise me. If you've got anywhere near any kind of forecasting model or learning model, there's every chance that you're going to get it wrong, that the model's going to be wrong. It's something we work really, really hard at, and particularly when you feed in the idea that maybe your data's not perfect. There's been some really high-profile incidents of machine learning going very badly wrong. I think wasn't it Amazon who had their hiring? They were using 10 years worth of CVs to figure out how to screen candidates for hiring, and it turned out that in those 10 years. They'd hired an awful lot of men. So they managed to train a completely biased algorithm to hire men. This sort of stuff can happen really easily at the coalface. So I was surprised. I think that should be higher. We should all approach it with a bit of suspicion so that we bring the right rigor to it, particularly in a regulated industry. The other thing, I guess, it plays to a sort of point on data literacy. I think we as consumers of analytics, particularly predictive analytics, we need to understand what we're looking at. We've got to be data literate. We've got to be chart literate. Are we really asking hard questions about what the machine is telling us in an informed way? Do we trust that the machine's got all the right information? And I think we all need good training and better awareness to ask those hard questions of the data that's put in front of us and not just be unthinking about it. And I think data literacy, if I talk to other analytics leaders, data literacy is a massive piece of the puzzle at the moment. We know everybody has got to raise their game on that.
100% with you on that. And we have raised quite a few issues today. And for the business leaders that are listening, what can they do to help their business tackle the issues laid out in that Qlik report, particularly around trust and regulation issues?
I think I've already covered data literacy pretty well. I do think that needs to be front and centre in every organisation because it's so baked into the way the world works now. Analytics is a part of most businesses now, but people have got to respect and understand what it really means, what its limits are. I think on the predictive side, one of the things that attracts me about using it in a business intelligence space is business intelligence at the front line is going to be something that looks like a dashboard or a report that somebody in the business is going to look at to make a decision. So, and the thing that reassures me about that is that there's a human there. The dashboard itself is not going to do anything. It's not going to, dip in and take money out of somebody's bank account or change their mortgage rate. Or there's no automated action there. It's something that's informing a human being to make a wider business decision. In that sense, BI seems the right place to use this technology because it's benign. It's supporting decision making rather than doing decision making. And I think that, for me, actually, that sums up where I feel about the whole topic. That's the line for me. I'm comfortable with it supporting human decision making. I'm not comfortable per se with it making decisions automatically that might impact people's lives, which is probably a bit crazy when maybe we're happy with them, AI driving our cars. But I guess I'd probably be more comfortable at driving my car after doing tens of millions of miles than it would managing my bank account. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll just build on that. I think it's a really important point you made there, Richard, is about, using the technology, like predictive analytics and AI to support human decisions. I plagiarize this a lot, but it resonates quite well with me. The great Donald Farmer, I heard him speak once, and he said, I'm quite happy for AI, from a health perspective, to delve through all my health data and have our forms of data to see if there's anything wrong with me. But I don't want the machine to tell me that. I want the doctor to tell me that, someone human who's done the training and can make sense of the data and then explain it in a human way. I think that's really important. And that, just to add to that, I think another part is that implementation piece that we talked about. If once you can build those kind of solid pipelines of delivering data that's in a trusted kind of way, you can bring in governance and start helping towards compliance as well. And there is a piece where analytics can actually help manage data sort of compliance issues. I've laid it out. Actually created a little app as a demo when we were creating our kind of go-to-market and response to GDPR when it came out. All those back in 2018, I think it was. But yeah, there's things like data retention policies as well. So there's many assets to that data protection regulation. One of them is not so well known, but not to hold data unnecessarily, which is quite a broad remit. But analytics can actually play quite a key part in that, in terms of looking at the breadth of data that you got, this sensitive piece, and how long have you held it? Is it still active? Is it still relevant? So that's quite neat. And the whole predictive analytics piece, it is quite key when you can automate it with things like predicting risk and negative events and possible misconduct and things like that. So it's kind of like keeping the innocent safe. And starting to if you use it right, you can start to use it in more of a kind of preventative maintenance mode, rather than just relying on predictive. This might happen. What do we need to do to change the path and carry on the good work, that kind of stuff.
And if we do have anyone listening that's new to data analytics, or maybe they've been burnt in the past because their data isn't clean and they've ended up with garbage in, garbage out. Can you tell me a little bit more about how the power of data analytics, when it's done right, can actually help organisations build that data pipeline and democratise data in a safe, secure way with customers' interests at heart? Because that is the utopia. That's what everyone wants to get to, but getting there can be difficult. So can you expand on that for me?
Yeah, sure. I think we talked a lot around the kind of trust element. To me, that kind of starts with those data pipelines of getting the data in. We've got lots of data sources now, just internally and externally. So having that kind of reliable, robust data pipeline that can not only feed data in a reliable way, but if you turn it into kind of like an analytical pipeline where it's converting it into, or getting it into business ready state. That's a solid foundation that you really need. That good quality data, good kind of governance guidelines around it, and then you can build your analytics on top. And your predictive analytics is important as well, because the more data that you can work on, as Richard was saying, that more historic data that will feed your predictive side of things. So I think it's important then for the world of IT and data leaders to be able to look at the data analytics pipeline, identify those flaws, the kind of barriers we spoke about at the beginning, understand what could be contributing to the data quality issues, and have those strong kind of data governance controls in place as well, making sure that the right people are getting access to the right data. An important part of that is being able to understand the lineage. Where has it come from source? all the way through to where am I using it into my analytics dashboards and potentially even beyond as well, as we start looking at, embedded use cases is quite popular, particularly, using analytics at the source of making decisions, whether that's a handheld device or, in a customer visit, face-to-face meetings, those kind of stuff. So that's quite important. And just echo what Richard said around the data literacy piece. It is important for us to, as well as being able to read and write now, it's about understanding data and removing that fear as well. If you can make data less scary, people can become more comfortable with data, and just get into that level where you can understand what a chart is telling you, or what a particular chart is good enough. Not everyone has to reach that dizzy heights of being a data scientist, but definitely being more comfortable, and allowing us to be a bit more skeptical with data is quite important. So that whole level of data literacy across the board, at various different levels is really important. So I think those steps combined really help to overcome those kind of trust and regulation issues, particularly around predictive analytics. And I mentioned about active intelligence as well. The more you can work on the most freshest data, that's where you can sort of start taking decisions and start taking action, in terms of what's happening in the state of your organization right now, rather than kind of looking in the rearview mirror. And I think that's also quite important for building that foundation around predictive analytics as well. So that's really what we talk about, that achieving a state of active intelligence. It's just as well as business intelligence, is being able to be quite active with your data and being responsive in terms of what's happening right now. And if the last 2 years have taught us anything, it's that you need to know what's going on now and kind of react to expecting the unexpected almost. So yeah, those are the kind of key points I'd portray.
Absolutely. And Richard, just to bring to life what we're talking about here, can I ask that you share how Nationwide are exploring analytics use cases across things like anti-money laundering, financial crime and risk management, as well as in supporting those human decisions? Is there anything you can share on that?
I can't go into huge detail, not least because it's a bit of a moving target. This is still new in our space. We're still finding our feet with it. There's certainly interest in it. What I have noticed in certainly the use cases I've seen across Nationwide is there's been a bit of a theme so far in that it goes back to, I guess, the points I was making earlier, is how do there's a certain interest in using it, for example, to triage decisions. So this isn't an exact example, but let's say that we had caseloads to deal with of people in financial distress. I'm sort of making this up because I can't give you the actual detail. But maybe we would use this technology to help us triage a caseload and maybe put them in an order. That seems, comfortable. I haven't yet seen any desire to fully automate anything in this space. We are a building society. We're not a bank. I think we've got, very clear ethics on how we treat our members, not customers. They are members. What we don't want to end up with, I guess, is a computer says no kind of outcome or policy. We like the idea of this technology to help us help our members, rather than have machines start to take over any decision-making process. But as I say, it's still very early days. I think we're like I say, we're all finding our feet with this, and I think on a wider point, as a wider analytics community, I think it's still early days forming a sort of data ethics debate. I think we all need to get better in this space. It is something I have talked to colleagues in the wider industry about, and when is it right to use this technology and when is it wrong? I think that theme needs to and will develop over the coming years. So yes, it's of great interest, but we're treading carefully. Let's put it that way.
And again, I know you can't share too much on this stuff, but we are at the end of 2021, starting to focus on what next year's going to bring. So, Richard, what are you going to be focusing on next year? And are there any particular tech trends that excite you, or trends in the industry that excite you?
In the BI space, well, I will give a shout out to Qlik here, but it's not Qlik alone who's doing this stuff. It's automation that the users can do themselves. I'm really passionate about the end business user, from who actually makes decisions with the work that we do. And at the moment, I think, we've gone from, I think they call it, is it third gen BI? It's basically, dashboards and reports and things that you as a person have to make a conscious decision to go and look at. And I'm interested in any technology at the moment that starts to push analytics out to people where they are. So, I mean, that could be automatically generating an email for them if a particular number changes, or sending them a message on Teams or Slack. But I think I'm seeing the technology, certainly Qlik has covered this, you're seeing the technology for that mature, so people can start to make some quite sophisticated sort of pipelines of automation and say, well, on a particular day of the week, if this number here changes, if the mortgage rate goes up, tell me about these particular products if some threshold is reached and they go down. You can get quite sophisticated in what you decide you want to have land on your in tray automatically. So I think from a user and from a decision maker's point of view, it means it takes away the idea that they have to go get the information all the time. It means the right information is coming to them. That utterly changes the speed at which we do business. It makes our day an awful lot easier. And we're making much more intelligent decisions at a faster pace. So anything that allows us to automate and smooth out those pipelines easily, and more importantly, puts it in the control of the business users rather than professional data people, I think that's a trend I'm really excited about.
I love that. And Adam, you're armed with the insights from the report recently. What are you going to be focusing on next year? And are there any other trends that particularly excite you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, interestingly, just on the subject of trends, I'll just do a shameless plug because we do have an annual webinar on trends, if I can say that correctly. So that generally airs around January. I think in 2022, it's going to be January 11th, and Dan Summer is our kind of industry analyst expertise. And the general theme around that is kind of interwoven, he's calling it. So more and more now systems are, there's multiple systems out there. There's just not one kind of systems of record, but there's, other applications that hold in vital data that, when you look at in combination, you get a much bigger picture, allows you to step back, and the more information that you can have to make decisions, the more important that is, I think. We've always sort of helped with combinations of data. It's been one of our strengths, allowing, organizations like Nationwide and many more be able to sort of have a look at that kind of holistic view of data and actually find associations in the data, which can be quite important. And I can see that sort of taking that step further, not only be able to sort of combine those data sources, but sort of breaking away from analyzing data in silos. You're only getting like a small part of the picture. And that's particularly important when you start building sort of predictive piece on top of that. So I think in terms of where we're going from a technology perspective, Richard mentioned it, to me, it's that holy triangle of, technology, people, processes, and put data in the heart of that. And that's when the magic kind of happens. So I'm obviously focusing on the technology side, small but important part of that. So it's the recent acquisitions we've done around NodeGraph, Blender, and Big Squid. I think are playing very strongly to these kind of emerging trends. So we talked about trust a lot. So data lineage is quite important. That really helps to get to that explainable BI, the word that Richard made up there, and that's really important to building trust in the data, right? The ability to understand where the data's come from, the lineage from that raw source all the way through to the dashboard, wherever that may be, what that may look at, and actually beyond when you start embedding it into systems that people use every day, and also looking at ways of kind of improving data quality. How can we help our customers go down that route, and all of that with kind of governments in mind. So I think you'll see some more things coming out around that, which is quite exciting. Richard touched on that application automation piece, triggering action. I think that's really exciting, and I think that is going to become more commonplace. Like I said, you've got all these applications. Typically, they're all out in the cloud. They're all software as a service applications, and there's normally a lot of workflows going in between. You've got data in a CRM or a ERP, customer relation management system, or your business of records, and you need to take that and put it somewhere else. We can start to smarten up those kind of workflows and automate them based on triggers, as Richard was saying. When something changes in the data, you normally want something to happen. So it's not necessarily taking decisions away, but it's kind of helping smooth up that process and speeding up the whole point of decision. So Richard gave some great examples there. I mean, other things are, from a marketing perspective, you could see if particular campaigns are, picking up interest, people are signing up for particular campaigns, and send them relevant information. You can really sort of speed up those kind of processes. And from a data integration perspective, reverse kind of ETL is getting quite interesting. And I've taken data out of one source, now I need to do something with it and put it into another application. That can also help with that as well. So a lot of interesting things there. And one thing I'll just touch on is kind of auto ML as we start going into sort of machine learning. So with the acquisition of Big Squid, we'll start to see more things coming in there. And I'm quite excited about that. Already, I think this year we're going to see kind of forecasting built into our software as a service analytics piece. So that's quite neat. That's giving a lot of control to people like Richard, the BI leaders, and letting that kind of feature out for the business users. Then we'll start to see more of these kind of capabilities start getting baked into the system as well. So I think throughout 2022 and beyond, it's definitely going to be an exciting year ahead for sure.
Fantastic. And we started the podcast talking about your origin stories, what put you on this path. I'm now going to finish by having a little bit of fun with you. A question I always ask my guests is a particular song that has inspired them in their past, helped them in their career, or just helps them get their head in the zone before going in a meeting or something. Richard, as it's your first time, I'm going to let you go first here. What would your song be?
Can I too?
I'm feeling generous, yeah.
Well, I have two headspaces. So, I mean, I'm boring management now, but I'm still a coder at heart. I still love to get at the coal face and in the weeds. And there's a song called Here We Go by Bass Nectar that I love to just get me. Just code flies out of my fingertips when I put that on. But I realised that in the context of going into a meeting, if I was playing that, I'd sound like a psycho. So the alternative, if we go on to trust and explainability, which I think was the theme of what we talked about this morning, certainly for me, I'd go with Faith, George Michael. We'll go with a classic.
Yeah, two classics there in my mind. And Adam, tough act to follow there. What have you got for us?
Always a tough. Well, you know me, I can never make my mind up. So I was thinking, initially financial theme. Maybe I should go the most obvious, something like Money, Money, Money by ABBA. Always a good little dance tune. I did touch upon the police with Everything She Does Is Magic, because when we talk about algorithms and things like that, it's like, oh, it's magic. But I did the police track on the last one. So I am actually going to settle on, and I had this sort of running in my head as we were thinking about this podcast coming up, is Superstition by Stevie Wonder. So I'm always a sucker for a good funky bass line. But it makes me think around, it's important to be kind of skeptical of data, and that data literacy piece we talked about. But if you actually listen to the lyrics of the song, it's definitely about broadening out your understanding, removing the fear, which is quite important, and also it's a great floor filler at parties, if we remember them 2 years ago, but they're starting to come back. So yeah, I will go for Superstition by Stevie Wonder.
Wow, perfect choice. A funky bass line to finish the podcast. Brilliant. And before I let you both go, for anyone listening wanting to find out more information, check out the report, find you online, contact your team if they've got any questions at all. What's the best way of finding you? And Richard, if you go first.
I'm going to say LinkedIn. I'm rubbish at Twitter. I just can't. It's too fast for me. Must be getting too old for it. I do hang out on LinkedIn quite a lot, actually. So, feel free to connect there.
Awesome. And Adam, for anyone that wants to get their hands on that report or find out more information, what's the best way?
Yeah, so I think we've got the report on Qlik.com. That's Qlik.com. So that's a great place to get more information as well. We are on Twitter. Qlik UK is the handle. You want to reach out to me? I'm a little bit active on Twitter. My handle is at Adam Mayer. WRK, and I am on LinkedIn as well. I think we've got a Qlik page on LinkedIn as well. But it'd be good if we could plug here. If we could probably put a link into the report on your podcast page as well. That'd be great.
No, definitely. We'll get that on there. So much I've loved about our chat today, particularly around trust and regulation issues, but also the power of data analytics to help organisations build that pipeline and democratise data in a safe, secure way with customers' interests at heart. It's such a hot topic right now. And all that washed down with a funky bass line and a few origin stories. Don't get no better than that. So thanks for sharing that with me today.
More than welcome. Been a pleasure. Good fun.
Thanks ever so much, Neil. It was an absolute pleasure.
Wow, we covered a lot there, didn't we? Especially on how to tackle the issues laid out in Qlik's report, particularly around trust and regulation issues, and also the power of data analytics and how they can help organisations build a data pipeline and democratise data in a safe and secure way with customers' interests at heart. And from the other side of the coin, it was great having Richard on, who was able to bring to life some of the topics we were talking about and learning more about how Nationwide are exploring analytics use cases across things such as anti-money laundering, financial crime and risk management, as well as in supporting human decisions, for example, triaging and helping prioritise staff caseloads. But if you are working in the financial sector, I'd love to hear your insights and experiences. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. And you can follow, connect, or send me a DM on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter at Neil C. Hughes. So finally, a big thank you to Adam and Richard for taking the time to come on here and share those fantastic insights from Qlik and Nationwide's perspectives. I think it worked out really well. And I'd also love to throw your opinions into the mix. So keep those messages coming in. Other than that, I'll be back same time tomorrow morning. So thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.